Hey guys, today's video is a mini tea of stuff happening on the internet right now that I'll be getting into. Before we do that, my social media will be in the description along with my beauty channel and anything else you might need to find. Also, like and comment for engagement, and I will be responding to comments for the first hour after posting my video. So if you comment within the first hour, there is a high chance you'll get a response, unless it's something that I can't really respond to. Terms and conditions apply, I guess. So let's just get into it. I recently have been talking about Gabbie Hanna. I said I wouldn't, and then because I thought she was going through a mental health struggles, I was just like, I'm not gonna, push her buttons. I'm gonna be an empathetic human being, and let's see where that got me. So just to summarize everything that's been going on, Gabbie Hanna last year was doing the same thing with the whole I'm shadow banned, these pesky drama channels ruining my career. Then YouTube basically confirmed that she wasn't shadow banned, and that in reality she just wasn't being pushed out because she wasn't making interesting enough content for people to click on. That's subjective, but basically what they said is if people don't click on your videos, they need to make other videos because you're not going to get recommended. Just having a lot of subscribers doesn't mean you get to be pushed out all the time. Anyway, so then we fast forward, everyone's nice to her, she kind of goes back to normal, everyone is nice to her. And then this year she starts to go at Rachel Oates for reviewing her poetry, and then she decides to have a go at everyone else defending Rachel Oates, calling us abusers, manipulators, so on and so forth. She then blames everything that she does on her ADHD, which just isn't an excuse. You can use it as an explanation, but not an excuse. That's not how things work. And people with ADHD found it really hurtful that she would push that kind of stigma on ADHD as oh, I'm a bad person, but ADHD, that's not how it works. ADHD doesn't make you a bad person, and when you do something wrong, you're still supposed to apologize. She then lied about many people, things that could be easily proven. So we're all just oh, is this some song promo? Is this what's happening? Anyway, she then has a go at Trish, who then tweets out that they're going to a mental health hospital because of the, situation happening with Gabbie Hanna, and Gabbie basically trying to persuade them that things happened that didn't happen. So then the Patreon stuff comes out where apparently Gabbie Hanna is persuading her fans to attack people, which they do. It pushes someone to be suicidal, a teenager, due to the harassment that they went through. A Google Docs document comes out basically talking about the behavior in the Patreon group, which just isn't good. Patreon and Discord kind of are joined into this situation. If you're on Patreon, you might be in a Discord server with Gabbie. Apparently, she bangs on about attacking people all the time and sending her, fans to attack. And apparently you'll pay for stuff and then not get stuff because someone else is paying more and is getting more stuff. She also then talks in the Patreon stuff about this person who apparently she thought was someone that was stalking her. Completely wrong. She did figure it out in the end that this is not the same person that she's looking for, but before she did that, she basically tried to dox them by talking about them to her whole Patreon audience, which is already full of stans that do anything that she asks them to do, aka go attack people relentlessly. She's talking about IP addresses and finding out who they are and all of this stuff, so then they get doxed. And then she's oh my god, no, it wasn't the same person. I'm just being paranoid. How quirky and cool. Instead of just going to the police and figuring out that way, she's getting her fans to go stalk someone on her behalf. And now she tweeted this out. So in the end, I was correct. I would like to tell you guys that I was correct. I love these situations, when I'm correct. This was all promo. This was all song promo. And it's actually not even her original song. It's a cover that she's doing. I love that she made someone suicidal, sent Trish to a mental health hospital, called people abusers, bullies, manipulators, narcissists, misgendered Trish and then blamed on her ADHD, doxed someone, threatened teenagers with a lawsuit, just did a bunch of things, all because she's releasing a cover of a song. A cover of a song. Just post it on YouTube and that's it. That's all you have to do. Just post on YouTube. Just see who wants to watch it. I don't know. Anyway, so then Trish, if you guys don't know, has had a redemption arc kind of a thing going. So back in the day, Trish was problematic, controversial, if you will. And now they're in the Frenemies podcast with Ethan, and obviously that's all going well. And then they were calling out people and calling out, people doing wrong things, sometimes not for good reasons. Recently they admitted in a podcast episode of Frenemies that they shouldn't have gone as hard on Charlie and Dixie as they did, and that they'd really enjoyed being on Dixie's late night talk show thing that Dixie does. So that's one thing where they admitted oh, I was kind of in the wrong there, I shouldn't have done that. But other than that, they've been calling out Mike from the Impulsive podcast, Banks, Keem, James Charles, David Dobrik, Jason Nash, a few people for very good reasons. So people have now kind of seen Trish do like a redemption arc, and some people are still saying, look, they're problematic, they were problematic, how are we just forgetting all of this? But some other people are saying they grew, they understand better now. I don't know what camp you guys are on. I think it's kind of weird how quickly Trish has had a redemption arc, but like, look, who am I to say that Trish hasn't learnt and hasn't educated themselves and all of that stuff? So it's just like, I'm not here to be the deciding factor on this. It's not really for me to decide if they have changed, if they have educated themselves, because the things that was said were not aimed at me in a negative way. So it's just like, I'm not part of the group that can decide if the apology is real and if the education is there. Like, that's just something that has to be decided by the groups affected by this. But Trish has had a redemption arc. So then we have Hank Green, who enters the chat, and he makes a TikTok about Trish, basically being like, this is all a character, they're pretending, and the whole internet is now dragging Hank, basically being like, who's Hank? Who is he? Who is he to be deciding stuff? And basically just being like, oh, Queen Trish, which is so strange to see this weird, like, one day you can be the most hated person on the internet and one day you're the most loved. Like, the internet is such a weird place where like some people get cancelled, some people don't. If you cancel yourself, you cancel yourself. If you don't, you don't. Like, Trish has been posting so many controversial videos over the years, and then one day, and then constantly getting cancelled, and one day Trish just did, I'm now changed, and everyone's just like, yep, that's a redemption arc right there. And for some other people it doesn't work that way. I don't know what it depends on. You guys let me know why you think Trish has managed to do the redemption arc thing. Like, why did it work for them and not for other people? Anyway, so that happens. There's some tea between Trish and Hank. Two very different sides of the internet that I just didn't expect to mix, but here we are. Then we have James Charles. So actually, Gabriel Zamora has a podcast where he basically spoke about the whole James Charles situation recently with him talking to underage people. And Gabriel basically decided to defend James. Like, I'd rather he just stayed silent. That would have been a great choice in this one. Because if you've got nothing good to say, don't say anything at all. That's a rule that I like to live by sometimes, and sometimes I don't. He basically just said, like, he's not a pedo, he didn't talk to kids, he didn't seek out kids, things just happened, I guess. Even though in James Charles's holding myself accountable video, he did say, I'm so sorry to the victims. When you say victims, you apply there was a crime or some kind of a wrongdoing. So for Gabriel to then come in and be like, he didn't do anything wrong. Like, he admitted in the video that he did do something wrong. So that's awkward. Anyway, he's also been commenting under James Charles's pictures on Instagram, liking the birthday picture that James posted, basically just hyping him up, being like big old hype man in this whole situation. I was recently watching a Nick and Dustin video on this. They film videos together now, which means it's very difficult to say which channel this is being filmed on. Like, it could be on Nick's channel, it could be on Dustin's channel, but because they film together now, it's hard to tell. Anyway, they did a video on James and this whole situation, and I watched it and they mentioned something really good, really interesting. So there are a few people heavily associated with James in the last few months that haven't spoken out. So for example, Gabriel just spoke out and basically said his stance. But there's Nikki Tutorials. So Nikki has been featured in many James's videos, and recently she's been doing a lot of clickbait to do with James Charles. So like, anytime she'd send James, so James would say like, send me looks to recreate, and she'd send him a look and he wouldn't do it, and then she'd do like a shady title about James Charles and then do the look that he didn't pick. So there's been a few of those videos. She hasn't spoken out. Money Me Way was the last video before James was cancelled, and he's not speaking out. So there's a lot of people heavily like associated with James not speaking out right now. For example, recently Bella Porch, so she did a music video and he was in the music, well, he was supposed to be in the music video. She didn't not invite him on set. She invited him on set, but she basically didn't put his name in credits and hid his face in the music video, because at this point it was like too awkward for her to ask him to leave, but also not a good idea to put him in the music video. So there's some people making very silent moves like this, but then Gabriel Zamora just comes out and is like, he's innocent. And then to do with the Nikki Tutorials Manny side of things, recently Ofra Cosmetics, right, is in heat. So Ofra Cosmetics' owner recently was caught basically being a Trump supporter, being accused of being a white supremacist. I don't want to say like outright white supremacy because I could get sued and Ofra has a lot of money, but allegedly white supremacist. So what happened was the owner of Ofra was seen making donations to Trump and the Make America Great Again movement, which is heavily associated with white supremacy, basically kicking out immigrants. You know, I don't have to tell you guys know all of this. And then he was also caught in pictures with like the Trump merchandise, doing the white supremacy hand
gesture. Well, a hand gesture that is heavily associated with white supremacy. Some say it's not, but some people say it is. So general consensus is that considering he's posing with Trump stuff while doing the hand signal, like they're basically being like, that's too much of a coincidence for it to not be real. Anyway, so Oprah's being cancelled now. Many people that are associated with Oprah or are doing collaborations with Oprah are now either speaking out or staying silent, and speaking volumes on what's happening. So I think it was like, who's associated? There's some smaller YouTubers like Lauren May who has spoken out. Jen Loves Reviews has spoken out now. I think there's this girl called Samantha March. I actually bought one of her Oprah collaborations, but I don't think she's spoken out until, like, as of filming this video right now. Obviously don't go attack her because I don't know if she has as of me like uploading this video, but right now as of filming she hasn't spoken out. But then you have Nikki Tutorials who hasn't spoken out yet, even though obviously she's heavily involved with Oprah Cosmetics, with like the highlighters being huge and stuff. So there's just a lot of being silent with these big YouTubers. Manny and Nikki being silent on the James stuff, not really saying much, not being like bad behavior. Nikki not speaking out against Oprah to make sure that her fans are aware of what's happening, basically being like, hey, I'm not associated with them anymore. There's just a lot of being silent. And I enjoy some of these YouTubers that I'm talking about, and it's just like, one statement's enough. Just, I'm not associated with them anymore. Anyway, so they were talking about that, Nick and Dustin, and I just thought it was such a great point, like how many people stay silent about so many things. Like with Nikki with James and Oprah, with Manny with James, Gabriel speaking out not in the right way, Noah Beck speaking out not in the right way, and then Bella Porch silently distancing herself. So there's just a lot of like, you know, Charlie and Dixie are not speaking out but also not seen with James. So it's just like, you know, a lot is unclear right now. And I think that is it for today's video. If you guys enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up, comment down below anything you want to comment down below, and subscribe to post videos every time something happens. So hit that bell, be notified when that's happening. Social media links, any other links in the description. I'll see you in my next one. Bye guys.